Welcome, subscribers. We are talking with Jerry E. Smith, and we are continuing our fascinating discussion about mainly about Jim Keith, his background on some of Jim Keith's relationship with Jerry, and we're talking about some of the many fine books that Jim and Jerry are behind. And I would like to ask you, Jerry, when you guys first began to pick up on some of the conspiracy material, and basically how you where did you find the research back then, and how did you perform the research back then?
It found us. That was the wild thing, is that Jim had been doing a shopper newspaper called Why, in which he tried to find out why things were as messed up as they were, what was going on in the world, and he was getting articles for it about conspiracies. And Scientology really believes in conspiracy. Scientology believes that there is a worldwide cabal attempting to destroy Scientology, and that the heart of this cabal is from the Bank of England, and that the Bank of England has a very personal vendetta against Scientology.
And why is that?
And as Scientology staff members, Jim and I were both introduced to varieties of conspiracy theory.
Okay.
At one point, as a Scientology staff member, I was required to read Gary Allen's None Dare Call It Conspiracy, and I'm certainly glad I did. It was a spectacular book. There certainly is very strong evidence that there is a cabal of bankers who are at the heart of the I hate to use the word conspiracy. It's so overdone. There is, let us say, there is the upper class. We have the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class. The upper class consists of the very rich, and it's not just lords and ladies, but international bankers, international financiers, international industrialists. The conspiracy crowd has a nice name for them. They call them the banksters, gangsters, and gangster plus bank. I think that's pretty much it. As certainly Scientology thinks it's pretty much it. The extremes of both the left and right in the U.S. think it's pretty much it. Particularly the extreme right, the John Birch Society, Lyndon LaRouche, etc.,
right,
are pretty much convinced that this is the weird heart of the program. And the program for the banksters is to control the means of production, so as to control the wealth, so as to keep themselves and their families and their symbiotes at the top of the heap.
Yep.
Now, in the last few hundred years, another counter movement has come up. The counter movement was Bolshevism and then communism, and today the communist movement is far from dead, but they have changed their stripes, if you will.
Right.
They've gone from being red to green, and the environmental movement has been largely taken over by the communist movement. And so a new phrase has appeared that I really love, and that's to refer to those folks as watermelons, because they're green on the outside and red on the inside.
See what you mean. That's a good one.
Now the problem with the watermelons is that they have a completely different philosophy and a completely different desire from the banksters. The banksters want to create a global government because they know that they control governments, and the beauty of a global government would be less people to have to control, less work to do in order to keep all the money in their pockets.
Right.
But the watermelons, they want to create a global government to destroy the banksters. They have become convinced that the Western lifestyle, the consumer-based economy lifestyle, is evil. It's a bad idea. It's not sustainable. one of the mantras of this group is that the United States produces 20% of the world's resources, but consumes 80% of the world's resources. This, they say, is a crime against the rest of humanity. And we need to be policed. We need to be prevented from committing this crime. And we are not going to do this. We're not going to willingly police ourselves. A few people have jumped on the bankster movement, or excuse me, on the watermelon movement, but it has yet to it has yet to stop the SUVs from rolling.
Right.
So
exactly.
so the watermelon movement has really done a number. It began probably with the first Earth Summit, which was in Helsinki, and I think it was '72, and then there was the Earth Summit in Rio. In '92.
Right.
And the Earth Summit in Rio, both of those, Helsinki and Rio, were brought about by a guy named Maurice Strong. Maurice Strong is one of the principal players. He's the biggest. He's the head honcho of the watermelons. And most people in the U.S. have never heard of Maurice Strong. He is probably the richest man in Canada, which is sort of an odd condition. He's the owner of Hydro-Quebec. He's a multi-billionaire, and he is convinced the first world needs to be destroyed. That he doesn't want to control the means of production. He wants to destroy the means of production. He wants to return the first world to pre-industrial revolution standards. He wants us riding cows to work. It's a very peculiar thing. And coming out of the Earth Summit was Agenda 21, which was the Earth Summit was an official plenary meeting of the United Nations. There were 173 nations represented. 172 of those nations signed the concluding document, which was Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is the agenda for the 21st century. It is the agenda of how the watermelons plan to break the first world and redistribute our wealth to the rest of the world. Most Americans have never read, most of the world has never read Agenda 21. Most of the world has never even heard of Agenda 21. And yet it is the roadmap. It's the plan that is being executed by the United Nations officially. Now, the United States, when we went to the Earth Summit in Rio, our rep was George Bush Sr. Of the 73 nations, 72 signed. The only one who refused to sign was George Bush. When the Clinton administration came into power, Al Gore's official first act as vice president was to sign Agenda 21 for the Clinton administration.
And
now, you know what Al Gore is doing these days.
Of course.
Al Gore is leading the movement to create a global government with police powers to enforce global warming edicts. Now, in '92, we didn't have terrorism and global warming as handy pretexts to create a global government, but the looming problem was oil scarcity, and the New World Order was all about the New World Order from both sides was all about oil scarcities and the need to have an international body to husband oil resources. The New World Order was a phrase used by both George Bush Sr. and Mikhail Gorbachev. George Bush Sr. used the phrase in official speeches 36 times. There was the Fifth Socialist International was called by German Chancellor Willy Brandt, and also known as the Brandt Commission. And at the Fifth Socialist International, and I forget the year now, I think it was 88 or 89, they defined New World Order. And I gave the the definition in my book, Harp, the Ultimate Weapon of the Conspiracy, and I'm trying to flip through to it here. The Brandt Commission said, okay, here's the quote from their final document. A supranational authority to regulate world commerce and industry, an international organization that would control the production and consumption of oil, an international currency that would replace the dollar, a world development fund that would make funds available to free and communist nations alike. And again, this was before the breakup of the Soviet Union.
Okay, yeah.
An international police force to enforce the edicts of the New World Order. That was the definition of New World Order given by the Fifth Socialist International, which was a phrase that Gorbachev and Bush both blathered rather endlessly for a while there.
Exactly.
Now, the phrase New World Order is no longer spoken by the guys who are building it. They're now calling it things like global governance.
Right.
But and globalism. And globalism is one of the big areas that Jim Keith and I ended up researching. In fact, it's what we were working on was the American side of this problem. And initially, when we were first doing this, when we first started doing this, the Soviet Union was still with us, and so the problem was the problem of oil and the Cold War and the what was then called convergence. And convergence was a plan to make the U.S. more like the USSR and the USSR more like the U.S. So the two systems could be combined into one system. And from the 50s to the fall of the Soviet Union, that was a big piece of the plan. Several major, well-funded organizations were working on that, particularly the Ford Foundation. The Ford Foundation's primary goal was to merge the U.S. and the USSR into a single system.
You know, I just want to read here also. Let's see here if I got the right quote here. Yeah, this is from the called the First Global Revolution report by the Council of Rome. This is pretty interesting here, paragraph. And it says, in searching for a new enemy to unite us, we camp up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. The real enemy then is humanity itself, bringing the divided nation together to face an outside enemy, either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. And this is actually written back in 1991, and this is published by the Club of Rome. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, absolutely. That's the plan. Global warming is not real. Greenhouse gases do contribute a small amount, and when I say global warming isn't real, what I'm saying is that global warming caused by greenhouse gases is not real. Global warming is real because the world runs on the sun. The sun is the driving force in our weather, and the sun has been getting warmer, has been getting more violent for 150 years. And so our atmosphere has been warming up for 150 years.
Right.
And that's a good thing, because we were in something called the Little Ice Age before it started warming up.
Yeah.
There was a period of about 400 years known as the Marauder Minimum, when there were no discernible sunspots. There was no discernible activity on the sun, and the Earth was cold. Now there is increasing activity on the sun, and the Earth is getting warm. It hasn't a damn thing to do with SUVs and cow flatulence.
And now we